Dinger. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. And of course, we're talking about the Home Run Derby last night. Who watched it? 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. I assume you were all rooting for a player that you associate with on your favorite team, a player you like, a player your kids like, your friends. Maybe you wagered on DraftKings Teoscar Hernandez, which we told you to do because I told you he'd win. I don't get a lot of those right, but there was something about Teoscar, and we're going to talk about that. We got the All-Star game tonight. This is the baseball time of the calendar, generally uninterrupted by anything. So I assume that no one is distracted by any events that are taking place off the field right now. I assume you are solely focused on All-Star week and weekend in Arlington. Texas Rangers are the host. All excited to see Paul Skenes pitch to Aaron Judge. Not guaranteed. We'll talk about that. I want to start with the Derby because it's my show. And in 2017, when our Miami Marlins hosted the All-Star game, we had an epic home run derby. I remember that home run derby better than I remember anything. Justin Bour, Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge. That was the moment when we had, for the first time, a ball hit the roof at Marlins Park. It was in BP, and Aaron Judge hit it. We then had the umpires on the field with people from Major League Baseball, with me and Mike Hill, who didn't work for Major League Baseball at the time. He worked with us at the Marlins. And we basically had to remind people what the ground rules were at Marlins Park for a roof hit ball, which had to be established before the ballpark opened in 2012, but which had dust on them because no batted ball had ever hit the roof. Because, of course, we were told when it was being built that nobody could hit the roof with a ball. Impossible. So Judge, of course, during BP for the Derby did it. Should have known then that Derby was going to be ruled by Judge. So I was watching last night, watching the introductions, wondering where's Soto, where's Judge, where's Stanton, where's Acuna, where's Guerrero? I need some stars. Where were they? And I'm not here to tell you that Bobby Witt Jr. is not going to be a star, because he very well could be. Gunnar Henderson, not going to be a star. He very well could be. But they're not on the same level as the aforementioned names. I'm not saying that the home fans weren't happy to see Adolis Garcia, he of the non-all-star part of the home run derby, because he's a Texas Ranger, game played at their home stadium. I'm not saying Teoscar Hernandez is not a star, but he's not a star. Alex Bohm, best team in the league, not a star. Now, they're all stars. Let's not quibble. But superstars, derby stars. It reminded me last night of what was the beginning of the end of the NBA dunk contest, when they had to scratch and claw to find guys that no one knew about, no one associated with dunking, and then they just did it, and people tried to do oohs and ahs with Julius Erving flashing a 10 card. So I'm watching. Introductions happen. I get that baseball's trying to go young, go Latin. There's a DJ. I think he was a DJ Coke. I'd never heard of the guy who did the introductions, but it felt cool. Baseball owners and the commissioner's office, they want to be cool. And by definition, we're not that cool. And the way you try to be cool when you're not cool is to surround yourself with people who you think are cool. But what happens mostly is the people you think are cool are not that cool to the people who are really cool. The way you get a national anthem singer at the Home Run Derby or the All-Star Game of the World Series, it's all controlled by Central Baseball. You can, as host, submit candidates. Candidates submit tapes. Then decisions are made based on the tape. Then there is a rehearsal the day before, the day of. Did Ingrid Andress rehearse anything? Who exactly listened to the 4-time Grammy nominee do the national anthem before it was done for real before the home run derby. We live in a funny world where Coca spends way more time than he wants trying to help me understand when I am being old or boomerish or stupid or not internet savvy or when I jump to conclusions. I was ready to fire off a tweet during that anthem, and I'm ready to hit send. And instead, I hit cancel save draft and I started to Google because I thought there was a chance that the anthem singer was special needs, had some sort of disability, was maybe a child of Tim Wakefield. All of these things came in my head. I had to be super careful because what I wanted to tweet out is someone's getting fired. Not a top 5 firing, I grant you, but someone better get their resume going. Then I realized I still know people within the commissioner's office. I sent out a few texts, got some back, and it was quickly made clear to me that someone better get a resume going. It was I've heard a lot of anthems. Someone asked me last night, Coca, I guess we could do it for sure, but one of you will likely do it after this. And I love our audience. I really do. How many anthems have I heard? Remember, for 2 years, I heard the Canadian anthem and the national anthem each game. Then until the Expos left, I would hear the Canadian anthem only when the Marlins played the Expos. Then when the Expos were gone, I would hear the Canadian anthem only when we played the Blue Jays. But other than that, you hear the national anthem every game, and that's 18 years worth of games and anthems. And I'm not even talking about all the games I used to go to as a child. I had seen tape of bad anthems, from Roseanne Barr to Fergie to, it's like when you see a tape of a bad first pitch. But you're not there. You don't get to say you're there. Last night was the worst national anthem that I ever saw live. Live, even though I wasn't at the ballpark, I was watching it happen live. I wasn't watching when Roseanne or Fergie, etc. I think she was the NBA All-Star game. I don't remember seeing that anthem. Mortified. So it started off badly. Then we had to get an explanation of the new rules, which we got. You get 3 minutes or 40 pitches, whichever comes first. Then you get a bonus round where you get 3 outs, which is how it used to be when you could get 50 home runs in a round. You get 3 outs, but you get a 4th out in the bonus round if you hit a ball 425 feet in the bonus round. Got all that? Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez needed to make sure we all had it. Then the head of baseball operations, who had the headphone on, he's the balding guy who's been there forever. He's great. His name escapes me. I'm so sorry your name escapes me. I've known him forever. He's talking to the players, reminding them of the rules. It's about 8:10. Alex Bohm steps up, gives you 21 dingers in the first round. See you later, Alex. He didn't get to go again for over an hour and a half because he made it to the semis. They've got to go through the rest of the 7 guys, and then they have 2 guys against each other, same rules in the semis. By the time Alex went, he had rested for an hour and a half. One thing the players talk about is how easy it is to get cold. So that's why you saw a lot of players in the batting cage, but that's extra swings, and you really do get cold. We talked about the rule changes in order to help players not be tired so superstars would do it. The players still look tired. My view of the home run derby is that the tweaks were good, but I want there to be only a clock or only a number of pitches. I thought the players were too rushed, too confused, and the bonus round was far more compelling than the original timed rounds. I like and understand why the final between Alex Bohm and Teoscar Hernandez was 27 pitches, not 40, because the players' union talked about the fact that by the end, the quality goes down because the players are too tired. You have fewer swings, fewer minutes. It should lead to a better final. The final score was 14-13, and our man Teoscar won the day. How would I change the home run derby? I'm going to call out Conine. I hate to do it. Niner, you know I love you, but I got a story that people may not know. I believe there was a home run derby where Jeff Conine was throwing to his son Griffin, who is a great player at AAA for the Marlins. He may be leading all of minor leagues in home runs. The Marlins have no offense. I would expect Griffin to be called up unless there's true such animosity toward anyone related to the old Marlins. But God knows the Marlins need some offense. So Griffin was in a home run derby. I don't remember whether it was minor league home run derby or high school. It could have been a college home run derby. Griffin went to Duke. And Niner threw him a terrible round. He just wasn't feeling it. He couldn't get the ball over. He didn't get it into Griff's sweet spot, and Griffin didn't win the home run derby. And Niner was like apologizing. Sorry, man, I just didn't have it today. I was watching some of the BP pitchers who are throwing, and the way it works is everyone in the home run derby gets to choose his own BP pitcher. The best one was Garcia's, a guy named Pena, who actually threw to Julio Rodriguez last year. If you remember him, he's the one without a windup. He was like a machine. He got the ball, zoom. If you're watching on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, zoom, thump. He has no arm movement. It just goes. I propose that pitching machines deliver the balls to the home run derby participants. Set up your pitching machine how you like it. Set up the speed that you like. Some guys like 65, some like 60, some like 80, whatever you like. Set it up exactly where you want it to deliver it to the spot, and then go off. And then we'll see who's in shape. Then we'll see who can hit him the longest. Let's make the distances matter because it's so easy to measure distance. What we're trying to get players to do is hit moonshots that cause the crowd to go, ooh, ah. We don't need players who are like getting crossed up because the ball is too far in, too far out, too far up, too far down. Hitting a ground ball the other way during a home run derby. Don't want to see it. We want to see 500-foot blasts. And the best way to do it is to not have a ball moving in a way you don't expect it to move. So I'm going to suggest to anyone who will listen within Major League Baseball that they look at replacing people with pitching machines. David, it's just the beginning. Robot umps. We're going to get rid of all human people, and then it'll look like a tennis match. Maybe. Well, tonight there will be actual people doing umpiring. All-Star game. Get ready. They say 8 o'clock first pitch. Not going to happen. They got to announce everyone on the line. A lot of people on each roster. Big rosters. Everyone gets an announcement. I want you to pay special attention to how awesome it's going to be when the National League gets announced, because they do reserves first and then they do the starting lineup, but they do the reserves by team. They do the lineup by the lineup. There are so many Phillies players on the team, 8 of them, but 2 are in the lineup. 3 are in the lineup, so 5 will be on the line. Is that what it is? Harper, Bohm, Turner are starting. And so then you've got 5 Phillies. And so the camera's right next to them. Now, from the Philadelphia Phillies, and they give the name. And one thing we did to try to make it go faster is not say the name of the team more than once. So from the Phillies, John Cocktoaston, move the camera. Dr. Rosen, move the camera. Boom. And then go like that instead of having to say Phillies 5 times, which always makes me laugh. The lineups were posted yesterday. It's exciting. Torey Lovullo and Bruce Bochy did not make the lineups. Lovullo keeps trying to tell us he made the lineup. Decided that Skenes was the starting pitcher. I'm tired of it. I don't know why baseball put Stephen Kwan in the 1 hole. I am disappointed at that decision. I'm sorry, Cleveland. I love you. But I want Gunnar Henderson in the 1 hole. I want Soto in the 2 hole and Judge in the 3 hole and Alvarez at cleanup. That's who I want Skenes to hit against. 4.869. That's who I want Skenes to pitch against. I want to guarantee a Skenes Judge first inning battle. And don't listen to anyone today who tells you, hey, listen, Skenes may go a second inning. Nope. Do you know that it's all pre-planned? Do you know that all the pitchers are told in advance what inning they're going to pitch? Do you know that there are pitchers who are on the team who are told that you don't have an inning? You're actually reserved for if one of the pitchers can't get through an inning because every one of the pitchers also has a pitch count. And guess how the pitchers get a pitch count? From their own team. We have our pitching coach call the pitching coach and the league and the manager of the All-Star game and say, hey, our guy's good for 26 pitches. That's it. And whatever the number is, there's no arguing and there's mutual respect in the game. There's no violation. It can be in the middle of an at-bat. There's a pitch count, and that's it. Skenes is slotted to pitch 1 inning, as are the other 9 pitchers on National League and 9 pitchers on the American League. They're all going to go 1 inning. The days of Scherzer going 2 or your starting pitcher going 2 are done. I don't like when people call it a starting pitching matchup between Corbin Burnes and Paul Skenes. It's a first inning. They're openers, basically. They're only going to go 1 inning each. The AL lineup is deep. Can you imagine having Vladimir Guerrero Jr. bat 7th and then Adley Rutschman bat 8th? Simeon, who's been on fire, batting 9th. I can't even. I'm not saying the National League is a bunch of schleppers. Obviously, you put Ohtani in the lineup, good things are going to happen. I just don't think it's a comparison. I think this is actually a pretty easy pick, as a matter of fact, when we do this pick. We're going to pick the American League. The American League has been dominant. I think the National League won last year, breaking a huge streak, but the American League is just going to be better. Someone is asking me, is that you, Coca, why Burnes is pitching over Skubal? That is because Burnes has earned that right, and that the Orioles are a team that has a bigger focus on them than the Tigers, and they want to get the Orioles out there in order to make the American League East battles, whether they're Yankees, Red Sox, or Yankees, Orioles, which battles are going to be going on for the rest of the season. They would like to get a national audience comfortable with Orioles pitchers and position players. They're thrilled that Rutschman and Henderson are starting, and they're thrilled that Burnes is starting. He is a deserving candidate for his body of work. It's also a great lesson. Remember, the Brewers traded him. He was their ace. The Brewers are still in first place. The Orioles needed an ace. They traded for an ace. They're also in first place. It is a way for GMs and for team presidents to look at transactions and realize that there are ways to maneuver players in and out of your team without tanking, without rebuilding, that you can be good and stay good for longer periods of time. And that's also a positive for the industry as a whole. That's a good question. Thank you, Coca. You know that Skenes is only the 5th rookie pitcher to start an All-Star game? There hasn't been one since Hideo Nomo in 1995, which is pretty amazing. How about the fact that Skenes has only started 11 games and the other people have started 19 games who've been healthy all year? He only was called up in the middle of May, and now he's starting the All-Star game. There is a player who did that before, and you've heard of him, even if you're young. Mark the Bird Fidrich. Now, what did Mark Fidrich have in common with Paul Skenes? In an era without social media, Mark Fidrich was a phenomenon. He was appointment watching on a team that was mediocre. He was the one who had all those ticks on the mound, yet he was so effective and impactful. Reminder that nothing personal pick of the day. We are 91 and 102. We had no pick last night. We will go through and give you our full pick, which is the American League minus 122 over the National League. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the Cleveland Guardians to shine. I think there's a chance the Cleveland Guardians will be on the mound when it ends. I think there's a chance that Jose Ramirez will be the Cleveland Guardian player who gets the most attention before the game, during the game, and then after the game, holding the MVP trophy. If you are sleeping on Jose Ramirez batting 5th and you're sleeping on the Guardians, I went on 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland yesterday to spread the love about the Guardians. Quickly look at your standings, and what do you see? You will see the Guardians. We're live. and I have nothing in front of me. I believe you will see the Guardians with the best record in the American League. What a nightmare for the players' union. What a dream for owners and for the commissioner, having the Orioles and Guardians where they are. It's the best part about the first half of the season. The greatest observation is that the correlation that the union wants there to be between payroll and winning may not exist. And we felt it last year when the Padres, Mets, and Yankees didn't make October with the top three payrolls. You had seen it for a good part of this year with the Mets and their top payroll. The Dodgers are not the juggernaut that it was thought that they would be. And you've got teams with low payrolls outperforming. And you've got owners with high payrolls saying to their own GMs, what are we doing? One of the things that is looked at before every All-Star break and then after every season is the study of the correlation between payroll and winning. It's been something that baseball has wanted to. And what really bothers me is when my tech is not working. And it very well may be my fault. It very well may be that I've put certain buttons in the wrong places because since COVID, I'm not in a studio and I need to be in a studio where this doesn't happen. I am sick and tired of being in the middle of a live show and then not having a script because that's how we do nothing personal. And then I have no idea what the hell I was talking about. Nor was I aware because I'm focused on trying to give you good messages, good things that make sense in my brain that I can then articulate. And then I get completely lost and I end up spewing nonsense. It's infuriating. Coca, can we take a break, please? We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson coming at you live at 8 a.m. Matthew, Coke, and I, Sarah, we're here 5 days a week trying to do the best show we possibly can for you. We cover a lot of topics here. We cover sports, business, entertainment, culture, politics. You don't have to agree with anything I say. I just want you to think about what I say and then make your own decisions on all sorts of things, whether they're sports related. Any opinion I have is not because I want you to share it. I want you to think about it. The correlation between payroll and winning is something that took up thousands of hours of my life thinking about where do we need to be in order to get a better chance to get into October, to get a ring. Then when you have a ring, to get a second ring. Can we be the Rays? The Marlins have been obsessed with the Rays forever. We manifested that obsession by taking some people out of the Rays front office, but trying to operate like them. Bruce Sherman manifests that obsession by handing over the keys to a Tampa guy, Peter Bendix. The Rays have found a way to keep a window of winning open longer than any other small market team, small revenue team. Our job is to keep a window open for as long as possible and to keep the window closed for as short as possible. It's harder than you think. But when you see that the correlation may not be direct between payroll and winning, you realize that if you are not one of the teams that is the Orioles or that is the Rays or is the Guardians, if you are a team that can't win like the White Sox, you got to start looking at your people because it's not the money. It's not the payroll. That's a tough thing to do because that's when you start firing your manager, then your general manager, then the owner starts looking at the team president. The worst thing for job security is being on a low revenue team that never is competitive. People say, and they argue differently to me, and they're just wrong, They say that it's got to be more pressure to be the GM of the Mets or the Yankees. Who's been around the longest? Brian Cashman. Got the money, spends the money, won a ring in 99, a bunch of rings in 98 to 2000, nothing since 09. Why is he still the GM? He runs his business well. The Yankees are a big business. That is a factor. He gets to cover up his mistakes in a way that makes owners think that there are fewer of them. Whereas when you are the GM or president of a low revenue team with a small payroll, the mistakes are crushing and out there for all to see. Yeah, you guys may be upset if Sonny Gray or Jordan Montgomery can't pitch in a Yankee uniform, but you move on pretty damn quickly, don't you? Aaron Judge is on track to break his own Yankee franchise record. Is he on track, actually? He set the franchise record for home runs before the All-Star break. Is it possible that Aaron Judge can outperform the contract that he got? No. Aaron Judge has to break Roger Maris's record year after year in order for that contract to even be on par. Aaron Judge is the favorite to win the MVP, as he should be, with Shohei, who should not be the favorite, but likely is in the National League. It's difficult for me to believe that Aaron Judge is going to be this good forever, but it's another year. So I did think about that. The other observation that I had that is not being talked about enough is what's going on in our country and what's going on in baseball. What goes on is a microcosm of everywhere. Is the middle class is getting squozen out. So what you're hearing during all this election cycles is we're going to fortify and bring back the middle class. In baseball, it was a huge part of our CBA negotiations where the middle class players were despondent because the minimums were going up. The salaries on the high end, people were getting 20, 25, 30, 35, keep going, 40, 43. But the guys in the $5 to $10 million range, owners were saying, why would I give a guy 1 year, 10 million? I'd rather give a guy 1 year, 1 million, give 5 guys 1 year, 1 million. That's better than one guy at 5 million and have one of them hit. I wonder whether the middle class is making a comeback on the back of Seth Lugo, who is the absolute definition, central casting of a middle class free agent who has performed stupendously for the Royals this year. Middle class is a guy you give 3 years, $30 million to. Charlie Morton got a couple middle class deals. And what they bring to your team is wins. They bring composure. They bring experience. And you don't break the bank. If they stink, they're easily DFA'd. If they're amazing, they outperform their contract. That sort of analysis is what teams are doing more and more, which will make baseball and the union both happy. Because having a middle class perform will help inform owners not to overpay at the top of the class because the risk and the juice is not worth the squeeze, and that will have a quashing impact on player salaries, not on player payroll. Don't confuse the two. Player payrolls are going up. We're talking about player salaries. We're talking about spreading the payroll over more players than having it concentrated only at the top and the bottom of the roster. The more players you get to perform of the Seth Lugo type, the more socialization you will get in the game, which is what the union wants, and the owners are not against it either. Do you feel as though I watch too many documentaries? Does it bother you? I'm a little insecure about this today, Coca, because someone sent me a text and it wasn't even a listener of the show. By definition, that should mean they have no sway or say in my emotional well-being. But I try to switch off. I watch movies, I watch TV shows, I watch documentaries. I think that this person must have gone on our website, davidsamsonpodcast.com, maybe looking for tickets to the St. Louis show, which is coming up in less than a week. As a matter of fact, it's a week from yesterday. A week from today, guys, I will be doing the show live at 8 a.m. Eastern in my St. Louis hotel room. coming off a Monday night show. I won't be tired. Don't you worry. But I love watching documentaries, and I'm not going to take that criticism to heart. I believe I do a good mix. I'm reviewing Cyndi Lauper, Let the Canary Sing. It's a documentary I watched about a woman named Cyndi Lauper, whose life I did not know about, who I associated with Big Sweet Lou Albin. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Time after time. That's Cyndi Lauper. But here's the question. Are people overnight successes? We all seem to believe that they are when they're first-time acting nominees or they have their first hit record. But everyone's got a story. And Cyndi Lauper's story is absolutely fascinating. So count me in. Cyndi Lauper, Let the Canary Sing. Watch it wherever you can get your documentaries, please. Were you all waiting for the VP choice yesterday? Maybe none of you were, but you should have been. These are important choices. When you've got octogenarian candidates, the VP candidates become even that much more important. And I'm not talking about assassinations. I'm talking about just end-of-life nursing home type stuff, where the possibility as someone is that age, what Biden is and what Trump is, that the VPs could very well, you are really electing a ticket this year. Please keep that in mind as we head into November. Many, many years, it's why Dan Quayle could become a VP. There was never really a thought that the VP would become president. No one would suspect an assassination. No one would suspect a car accident or all of a sudden horrible cancer where you can die within a year, which too many of us are familiar with. But this year's different to me. This year, it is my opinion that we have to be super, super careful who we vote for and pay really close attention to the candidates are. We know Kamala Harris. She's been the VP for 3.5 years. Think of her what you want, but you know her. You know Biden. You know that you're voting for an administration, a theme, a way of thinking, a way of acting. Trump announced yesterday, the first day of the RNC, that J.D. Vance was going to be his vice president. Some of you may know J.D. Vance from this show. When we reviewed Hillbilly Elegy with Glenn Close and Amy Adams, that's a movie based on a book that he wrote, and we talked about it. Some of you may know that he is a senator in Ohio. Some of you may know that his view of women is not exactly what many of your views may be. If you think that he doesn't have a view about your body, you're wrong. If you think that he is not a complete MAGA Republican, you're wrong. And you may be that too. And then you should be happy, because what this choice is, and I'm not telling you not to be MAGA, be you, but be educated. If you want Trump to have a candidate when he dies or he's out of office in 4 years and J.D. Vance becomes the next president of the United States, the next Republican candidate, basically, they are grooming him to be that. And there is a view that he could be that today if he had to be that. Marco Rubio tweeted he was a candidate to be a VP. I knew that was never going to happen. That's why I was easily able to tweet at David P. Samson. There is no chance that Marco Rubio will ever be VP or president. It's all he's ever wanted is to be president. No chance, toilet pants. He tweeted, J.D. Vance is a fantastic choice. Americans will soon see this is an incredibly intelligent and talented man who's completely committed to making America great again. Vote for Trump Vance 2024 so we can unite our people and save our country. Are you now more informed about J.D. Vance through that tweet? Intelligent and talented. I don't know whether that means he can juggle. I don't know whether that means that he can eat 25 hot dogs in 5 minutes. I don't know if he can tap dance or sing the anthem. What I do know are the things that he stands for, which you will learn by reading any article or listening to various shows over the next 3 months, which will help inform your decision. This was a purposeful choice by Trump, not only for geography with him being from Ohio in the Midwest, but really for who he is, what he stands for. There is no difference between him and Trump. And if you like it, then you're going to love it. If you don't like it, then you're going to hate it. I wasn't upset about the way that Trump announced it on Truth Social. It didn't bother me that he was in Milwaukee with a bandage on his ear. It bothered me that he had to have a bandage on his ear. It bothered me that there was an assassination attempt. I absolutely understand why he would release it the way he did on his platform, saying after lengthy deliberation and thought and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I've decided that the person best suited to assume the position of VP of the U.S. is J.D. Vance. And then it goes into the fact that he's a war hero, served our country in the Marines, talks about his education credibility, Yale Law School, mentions that he's the writer of a bestseller, Hillbilly Elegy, that he champions the hardworking men and women of our country, but then says he's a successful businessman. He had a career in tech and finance. It's exactly brilliant strategy. What they do is they try to talk to you about you getting things that you don't have, that you may never get, but that you wish you did, and that you are surrounded by the Robin Leaches of the world and saying, I'm going to watch that on television because I want that to be me, and I'm a dollar and a dream away from it happening. If you actually looked at who took care of the lower middle class, upper lower class, middle class, it would not be a runaway victory for the right or the left. There's nuance. And this VP choice was not about nuance. This VP choice was about taking advantage of the strong and loyal base that Donald has, and then using that to get him elected, and then to get his VP elected for another 8 years. As long as we all recognize what's happening, then I'm all okay with it. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily okay with J.D. Vance given his view of women. Coca, just 30 more seconds on it. Do you know, like, when you run a baseball team and you're asked to give speeches? Side note, this is a side story. You're asked to give speeches, and you do. You go around to different places and you talk about different things. And I always found it bizarre when people expected me to know things about things because I was the president of a baseball team. Can you come and be a guest lecturer in our physics class? Well, I'm happy to come and talk about a bunch of stuff that I can talk about: economics, philosophy, baseball, life lessons, physics. I can't, I have no idea. Didn't take it, don't know about it. Just because people are movie stars doesn't mean they know what they're talking about in politics. All those people on the left in Hollywood who give speeches as though they have any idea. Jack Black, who I've loved always, what he did yesterday is so inexcusable that we cancel people for way less. Jack Black, in his disappointment that Trump was missed and his wishes that it doesn't happen again. That's wrong. That's the wrong look. That's not what we're going for here. I'm going for people who are willing to talk to me about issues I have as a citizen of the United States and put me in the best position I can be in to succeed mentally, physically, financially, spiritually. I do not want someone in office who is going to make my decisions for me. That's why it's hard to believe that anyone who could be not pro-choice would be supported by anybody, no matter what your view is of term or life or when or how. It's such a bigger concept to me. Live and let live, folks. Don't tell me what to do. I won't tell you what to do. What happened last Sunday in Miami is going to be talked about and dealt with for years. There's going to be hearings. There's going to be investigations. I'm talking about the fan behavior at Hard Rock Stadium. I'm talking about the mayhem, the chaos that we addressed in yesterday's show. I knew this story was going to last. I had no inkling that it would take a turn the way it did yesterday. In all of the craziness, there was an arrest made. There were many arrests made. One of them was of a 71-year-old man who happens to be the Colombian Soccer Federation president. He also happens to be on FIFA's council. This is an important man who makes important decisions about who does what when. This is a man that is right in a position to get a little $5 slipped in so you can host. Not saying he did, just saying he could. He got arrested along with his son on 3 felony counts of battery. They were fighting with police officers because they were trying to access the field and the officers would not let them. This reminds you of anything, Coca? What's the first thing that you thought of? Do you remember when the GM of the Raptors had an issue accessing the court after the Raptors won the finals? That's the first thing I thought of. I was taught, and I didn't violate this, I was the president of the team, the number 2 person in a company of thousands of people. Everyone knew who I was. I wore my credential every day in the stadium. Every day. I wore my credential every day on the road. The reason why we insist on everyone wearing credentials, it's not like wearing a name tag at a high school reunion. It's not like when you don't want to tell someone your name for a particular reason when you're on a public transportation. When you are in a ticketed event, when you are in a place where there is security involved and where there is trespassing possible, and when people are hired on a day-by-day, game-by-game basis, you wear your credential. For crying out loud, Nick Saban was denied access at SEC Media Day because he didn't have his credential, and you'd think that he could have said, do you know who I am? No credential, no field access, period. But the Colombian Soccer Federation president and his son said, well, I think we're going to try a different approach, which is we're accessing the field. And so what they decided is you're seeing, for our video audience, is you're seeing mayhem ensue when they are going after officers because they want to get past a door to access a field. We're talking about a 71-year-old man and his 43-year-old son, both in handcuffs. Part of the 27 arrests, 55 ejections that took place on Sunday. Part of people without tickets gaining access to a seating bowl that they had no right to be in. Miami-Dade had to deal with 120 incidents at the stadium on Sunday. 116 of them were medical related. Now, you may see why isn't 120? Well, fire rescue can do a ton of incidents that don't have to be about, your health. Doesn't have to be about blood. They can be called in for anything. That's what they're there for. What's happened since yesterday is that it got reported that this Federation president was physical with a security officer who asked the man to step back. They became a raid at the guard, quote, shouted at him. This is not a Justin Timberlake, I had one drink, do you know who I am type of thing. I thought that would be the low point of what went on for that Sunday night Copa final, but then it got worse. Exactly as we predicted. I wish that we could pull that video. I believe that I predicted and blamed and explained that CONMEBOL and Copa America, they're not in charge of security at Hard Rock Stadium. Hard Rock Stadium is in charge of protecting their stadium. I don't care what the contract said. When I've got visitors at my house, I'm making sure that my house gets taken care of, and I'm not leaving it up to anyone. And if you can't predict that there's going to be a insane, huge crowd for a Copa final with Argentina and Messi playing against Colombia, and you've been to Miami before, you would expect there to be some activity. Statements are being released, and they are something. CONMEBOL released a statement where they basically pointed the finger solely at Hard Rock Stadium and the stadium operations people and the Hard Rock Stadium authorities. They wanted to be very clear to everyone that they regret the acts of violence, which they should, but that the preparation that was required to have an event like this was obviously not done. They wanted you to make sure you know that CONMEBOL was subject to the decisions made by the Hard Rock Stadium Authority, according to, and this was not workshopped by anyone but lawyers, according to the contractual responsibilities determined in the contract. Do you know when you put that in a statement? When you know that you have a contract that quickly, easily, and clearly delineates who's doing what. I've done a lot of these contracts where people come into your stadium, where we go into other people's stadiums, where you have contracts that talk about responsibilities for everything: police, fire rescue, game day operations, concessions, procurement of food, premium areas, ingress, egress, scoreboard operations. It goes into detail about everything. You want to know when we hosted the All-Star game, how it worked? MLB security is in charge, but they work with Marlins security, ballpark security at Marlins Park. But guess what I did? I made it clear to my security people that they are the ones who I am looking to. When things go perfectly, they're getting the credit. When things go badly, they're getting the blame, because I didn't want them to be bullied by anyone who didn't work at Marlins Park, who worked for the commissioner's office, who's not there every day, who may not have an understanding of what goes on. Hard Rock Stadium can't say, oh, we thought it would just be a sold-out Dolphins game. They can't be that stupid. They're not. That would be me like saying a World Baseball Classic game between Venezuela and the Dominican Republic is like a Tuesday Marlins-Reds game. It's asinine. It's not credible. Hard Rock needed to empower the people in order to run their stadium the way it ought to be run, and now they're stuck with a ton of damage. They're going to blame the organizers of the event. The organizers of the event are going to countersue because they don't want to pay to take care of all the damage that happened. And it's not like Hard Rock wants to make an insurance claim, because as you all know, when you make an insurance claim, guess what? Your rates go up, your premiums go up, your deductibles could go up, and guess what? Hard Rock wants to keep hosting events like this. Anyone hear the word World Cup? There will be lawyers, there will be lawsuits. Stephen Ross is not going to cut a check to fix the elevator in Club 72. Fix the windows and everything else that got broken, the cleaning. They are keeping track of every cent spent, as they should. There is going to be a negotiation. There are going to be discussions. There are going to be settlements. There will not be a lawsuit with witnesses about what happened where. That is not where this is headed. There will be lawsuits filed and then settled. There will be allocation of expenses to fix what happened. And then there will be committees and hearings in order to make sure it doesn't happen again, because the number one issue is we can't lose the World Cup. Why? Because it's just business. This is Nothing Personal.